Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you a super easy and delicious dinner party idea if you want something that is low fuss. This lemon thyme chicken roasts in the oven with the potatoes. It takes about an hour and a half in the oven, which gives you plenty of time to welcome your guests, sit in the living room, have drinks and snacks, knowing that dinner is roasting away. Let me show you how easy it is. I think the secret to this recipe that makes it so easy is we are going to remove the backbone of this chicken and roast it flat, otherwise known as a spatchcock chicken. I love this idea because it looks a lot prettier on the platter when you go to serve it, and it's a lot easier to cut and carve at the table than a whole roast chicken, and it couldn't be easier to do. First, you're gonna need some really sturdy kitchen shears, something like this. Then I'm working with a 4-pound chicken, which I think is great for 4 to 6 people, probably 4 adults and 6 if you have kids. Then we are going to flip the chicken over, and this is not the time to be squeamish. You have to just make peace with the chicken. Make sure your hands are clean, and you just have to get in there and get the job done. Once you do it once, you'll become an old pro. And the way we're gonna flatten this chicken, as you see here, this is the backbone of the chicken. We are just going to cut this and remove the backbone, and that will allow us to flatten the chicken. It's a lot easier than you think. Okay, here we go. So sometimes it takes 2 hands, depending on how sharp your kitchen shears are. You might need to kind of go like that, you see, and it does cut. Now, if you have a good butcher, they may even do this for you, which would make this recipe even easier. But if not, you know how to do it now. Okay, you see, you can start to see inside the cavity of the chicken like that. It's already flattening. All right, and then we're just gonna do the same thing on the other side. There, we did it, see? And now we have the backbone removed, and see now our chicken is flattened. Now, another thing that the spatchcock chicken allows for is getting underneath the skin of the legs, which can be really hard to do if you've kept the chicken whole. So oftentimes we'll do that with the breast. You know, you kind of get in there under the pocket, just loosen the pocket, and we're gonna put our delicious thyme lemon butter under there. But we can do the same thing with the legs. So it's a little easier to access the legs if you flip it back over, okay? And then there's this pocket here, you see, and you can just loosen that, just like that. And this is where we are gonna put our delicious butter. And that is going to give so much more flavor to our chicken, to the dark meat. Because a lot of times, sometimes you put the flavoring underneath the breast when you're doing the whole chicken, but it's hard to get under where the dark meat is. So everyone will be happy this way. So just go ahead and loosen each pocket under the legs. And then you wanna do the same thing with the breasts. Just kinda loosen it. Just be careful you don't actually rip the skin, because that is going to keep it nice and juicy. There we go. Okay, this chicken is ready. Let me go wash my hands. Okay, so now we can just set this chicken aside. I have 4 tablespoons of melted butter here in my little pitcher. To that, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of freshly chopped thyme. It's going in there, and then you can just stir that up. Now, one thing you can do as well is you can put the butter in there and then put the thyme in and then microwave it, and then the butter will get this delicious flavor of the thyme as it heats. Then you wanna add 2 teaspoons of salt. So that might seem like a lot of salt, but chicken like this, I find, just needs a lot of salt. It tenderizes it and gives it a lot more flavor. And we are gonna be putting it throughout the entire chicken. So it will get distributed. And then we wanna add the zest of 1 lemon. There we go. I have so many lemons growing in my garden right now. It is the perfect time of year for this recipe. The only thing I have is lots of thyme, rosemary, and lemon. So that's where this recipe came from. And then you can stir that up. Then we're gonna add a little freshly cracked pepper. One thing I would say is before you put your butter on your chicken, make sure that it's cooled, because if you put hot butter on a raw chicken, it's going to start to cook the chicken before it hits the oven. And you don't want that, because we have some other things to do before it hits the oven. All right, so we can set this aside. Okay, now for the chicken, here we go. So when you're roasting it, make sure that the legs don't roast like that. You want them actually flattened, because then everything will cook at the same rate, okay? Then you're gonna take your cooled butter, and we're gonna take about 1 big tablespoon per chicken part, and under the skin it goes. There we go. And then once you get it in there, you can kind of massage it in to make sure it's well distributed. And we're gonna do that on the other side. And if you need to turn your pan, you can do that, because it's sometimes a little bit easier when the chicken is facing you to get under the breasts. We're gonna do the same exact thing. And then I tend to put a little bit extra, maybe a 1.5 spoons under the breast, just because that's the drier cut of meat, and it'll just give it even more moisture that way. All right, great, looking good. Now, Let me wash my hands again. Now, waste not, want not. We're gonna take this lemon that we zested and we are going to slice it into about 4 to 5 slices, and we're going to put this under the chicken so that as the chicken roasts, it is going to absorb all of this delicious lemon flavor. Because now we have the meat exposed below so it can get right in there in the chicken. So just put the lemon slices, almost like a bed, under the chicken, and then put the chicken on top. There. Now for the next part, you want to get 4 of these large Yukon Gold potatoes. I think these work the best because we are going to cut them in half and they're going to roast at the same rate as the chicken. You don't want to get them too small, otherwise they'll be like mush by the time your chicken is done. So I think that's the secret. Whenever you're roasting meat and vegetables at the same time, you want to make sure that the vegetables are big enough that they can withstand an hour and a half in the oven. So I think this size is perfect. So just go ahead and peel them all. And then cut the potato in half so that the highest side is sitting up like this. See, if we cut this potato this way, they would be really not as high and it would cook quicker. So this way, it's gonna take a little bit longer to cook when we set them up like that. I love the Yukon Gold because they are waxy potatoes and they're perfect for roasting because they keep their shape. If you used a russet potato, which is better for mashed potatoes, it's a fluffier potato, it would start to kind of disintegrate. It wouldn't hold its shape and just wouldn't work as well for this recipe. So do look for a waxy potato. You could also use large red new potatoes. That's another waxy potato. That would work. Now, the next thing we need are the shallots, because the shallots, when they roast, they get really silky and caramelized and really delicious, and it's a great complement with the potatoes. So you can use 2 whole shallots like this. Sometimes if I have an extra, I'll also throw it in just because they cook down a lot. And I just think people can never get enough of the shallots. They're the best part. And then once you have all of your shallots peeled, you can then go ahead and cut them. I like to slice them into quarters lengthwise because I think they just roast a little bit better that way. And they look prettier on the plate too once you go to plate the full dinner. So just go ahead, you can cut them in half or quarters, however big your shallot is. So we took the sort of more like unsightly lemons, the one that we zested, and put that under the chicken because no one's gonna see that. We're gonna discard those after the chicken is done. But we're gonna add the prettier lemon to the plates because once it's already roasted, it's a really nice garnish and it just adds to the sauce that the chicken's going to make. So you can go ahead and cut this in at least 4 to 5 slices. That way, if you're serving 4, everybody gets a little lemon on their plate, which looks pretty. Ooh, I got a lot of slices out of that one. Then we are gonna add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to a large bowl. And then you're gonna add 1 clove of garlic, a little salt and pepper to taste, and then a teaspoon of herbes de Provence. Now, I like to use the dried herbs in this situation because these potatoes are gonna be roasting for so long. If you had the fresh herbs, they'd have a tendency of kind of burning. So I think the dried just holds up to the heat for longer. And then you can give that a whisk just to make sure everything is combined. And then we are gonna put our beautiful potatoes in here and our shallots. And just give the whole thing a good coating. It's a little bit easier with your hands at this point. Just make sure that everything is well coated with the herbs and the seasoning. And then go get your chicken. There we go. Then you just wanna place the potatoes all around the chicken, wherever there's room. Everything will sort of shrink as it roasts, but just find the room that you can. Here we go. Distribute that. And then you can just tuck in the shallots again wherever there's room. And now for these delicious lemons. You just want to place these also on the pan. And what will happen is it will commingle with all of the delicious chicken juices that start to become released and all that pan sauce. And you'll have a really delicious lemony sauce that you didn't have to work at. Then for the finishing touch, I do like to put a little bit of olive oil spray on the chicken. In my pantry, I always have the regular olive oil and then the olive oil spray because I find that this works really well for these kinds of jobs. So all you do is just give it a spray on top of the chicken because the olive oil really helps make a crispy skin when you roast chicken. I find the butter sometimes, it's good under the skin, but it has a tendency of burning sometimes on top of the chicken. So I really have discovered that olive oil works a lot better. And then you can season with a little bit of salt and pepper on top. And then I also like to add the remaining tablespoon of fresh thyme to the top of the chicken. There's so much fat on the chicken skin that I find it won't burn as much on the chicken skin as it will on the potatoes. So I reserve it for the chicken. There, it is all ready for the oven. Now, in fact, if you wanted to do this ahead of time, get this whole thing ready, cover it with foil, pop it in your fridge, then take your shower, get everything ready for your guests. Then as soon as your guests are due to arrive, just pop it in the oven, and then you won't have to clean all this up before your guests are arriving. We're gonna roast this at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour, 20 to 30 minutes. You'll know when it's done, when it's nice and golden brown and crispy and those potatoes are fork tender. All right, and then when it's done, it'll look like this. All right, let me show you how to plate this up to make it look extra special. So first, get yourself a nice family style platter. I like something like this that has a little bit of depth to it. That way it can handle all of the extra vegetables and the pan juice as well, and it's not gonna spill out all over your table. I think you can find really fun, unique platters like this on Etsy. It's one of my favorite sources. And I got this one for, I think, $8. Just search for Mexican pottery and all kinds of things come up. Then you can use turkey forks. They're actually great outside of Thanksgiving for moving chickens. And just gently put it on your platter. Make sure you don't bring any of those lemons with you. Okay, there we go. Then just go ahead and discard the lemons that were under the chicken because we have prettier lemons that we're going to put on top. Now you can see this beautiful pan sauce that has developed. All right, so now we want to release these potatoes. And this is why I love roasting potatoes like this with the chicken, because you can see how caramelized and delicious they are on the bottom, but still nice and shaped on the top. So you can nestle the potatoes in and around the chicken. I usually serve 2 potatoes per person, so this works out if you're serving this for 4 people. This is just such a great dinner when you're entertaining and you have kids in the mix, because what kid won't eat chicken and potatoes, right? Then you're going to add the delicious shallots. See how beautiful these got? Nice and caramelized and soft. And if you haven't eaten a lot of shallots in your life, they are much sweeter than an onion, so they're not as pungent as an onion. And when they roast down, they're just so delicious, especially with the chicken. I like to put them on top of the potatoes too, because I think it looks pretty that way. And then everybody who gets a potato gets a little bit of shallot as well. Teachable moment. I sliced the pretty lemons a little bit too thinly, so they got a little disintegrated. So when you do it, only slice enough so that you're getting like 4 to 5 slices. I got like 6 to 7 slices, and it was just too thin. But you can see how beautiful they get. They get really nice and golden brown and caramelized, and they're just pretty to add to the plate. Then just scrape up all of this delicious pan sauce and just give it a stir, and that way it'll combine and come together. And then you can just pour it all over your chicken and potatoes. So you can kind of go there and just give everything a good once over. And if there's any extra shallots, you can just plop those in there as well. And there you have it, a fantastic looking chicken and potato dinner that looks elegant when you bring it to the table. All right, you guys, I hope you give this one a try and let me know what you think. And I'll see you back here next time for another quick and easy recipe. Until then, bye.